How y'all doing? I'm Joshua Wiley, and this video right here is part two in a series I'm doing about Ellen G. White and the many warnings on all different levels that she set out for the church, but that the devil and I'm gonna just be straight up, the devil, the Jesuits, Illuminati, secret societies, these men have orchestrated an attack to keep her, to paint her in an ill light, to keep people from reading her books, even though she's the most translated author in history. You know, off of a third grade education, has written more books in literature than any other author in history. So I thought, you know, the thought hit me, many people just don't know about her, and her warnings is nothing, you can tell it's nothing but the Holy Spirit, because they fit right for today. But this one that I'm reading right here is mind-blowing. This was the very first, what I'm about to read to you was the very first thing, because I was the same. I didn't even read Ellen White until I was 29 years old. Then I got mad once I started reading The Great Controversy, because I'm like, wow, you know, I can't believe it took me so long to not read this book. Now this is my personal favorite copy of it right here, because of the pictures that it has. And you can see the ones on the front: the Statue of Liberty, Martin Luther, the White House, the Colosseum in Rome. I'm telling y'all know, this book right here is the reason. This book is one of the main reasons why they paint an ill picture on her, because in this book is the history of Christendom. It starts off in 70 AD, and it tells the history of Christianity, the untold history of Christianity, all the way up to our time today. And when I say the untold, I'm talking about the stuff that they don't want you to know. You know, like the first place I ever learned that Christians hid in catacombs up under Rome when Nero was persecuting Christians and hanging them on light poles, burning them. And this is the first book I've ever read about the Waldenses and the Huguenots. The Waldenses, as they hid up in the mountains of the Alps, and they were in caves handwriting the Bible by hand as Roman troops, and the only thing that saved them was the mountains was too big and grand, and the winters the troops couldn't handle. And I'm a mountain boy, so I personally know if you're not from the mountains, you're not gonna catch no mountain boy. You can't handle mountain winters. You know, many people die, even people who've lived in the mountains for years. If you're not fully prepared for a mountain winter, you will die. But anyway, this is where I've learned of all these things. Jerome, Huss, Melanchthon. First place I ever read about Martin Luther was right here. They do not want you to read this book, The Great Controversy. And they paint an ill picture, and this will say when the Jesus said, a lot of people say, well, she was a cult devil worshiper. And like I stated before, you go into any bookstore, you won't find out one Seventh-day Adventist book in the occult section. It's like, okay, I guess we're the outcasts of the occult section, you know. But this book right here, The Great Controversy, that she wrote, often, well, let me go ahead and say it was what I'm about to read to you today is the first place I ever read about a Jesuit. I didn't even know what a Jesuit was, but when I read this, I'm like, this group of people, whoever it is, I'm like, wow. That's why I call them the pit bulls of the Catholic Church. They were created to stamp out Protestantism and to bring all Protestant denominations back to Rome. That is the aim, goal, and the oath of a Jesuit. I'm telling you, if you have a couple minutes after you look at this video, just Google the oath of a Jesuit. Matter of fact, I'll make that my next video, and I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it in my next video, the oath. But until I do it, and until I upload it, take a couple minutes, just Google the Jesuit oath. And it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. But anyway, I got and all truthers and people who teach present truth and Bible truth, I got hit with a YouTube restriction or sanction. They didn't send me the warning. It wasn't even up on my page. Just all of a sudden they said, okay, you're hit with a restriction on a copyright notice. Blah, blah, blah. I said, all right, fine. What can you do? And so I can only upload videos for 15 minutes, and it's gonna last for six months. 6 months. So I only got 15 minutes, and I can't custom make any thumbnails, but it's all good. As long as we can get the word out. I have another YouTube page called Lucifer Lies Exposed. So from here for the next 6 months, I will be putting videos. I'm gonna part them at 15 minutes. The videos that I have, a couple documentaries that I tried to upload the other day, but they were too long. But I'm gonna break them down into 15-minute parts, upload them on here. But if you want to see them as a whole, I'll be uploading them on Lucifer Lies Exposed for the next day or two. But anyway, excuse me. But anyway, let's get to it. This is the warning that Ellen White gave this last generation about Jesuits and popes, like Pope Francis. Now, when she gets into what a pope is, into Jesuits, tell me this isn't Pope Francis. All right. And I'm reading The Great Controversy, page 234, and it's in the chapter The French Reformation. I'm telling you, if she was a devil worshiper, the history, even learning about the French Reformation, like the Saint Bartholomew Massacre, where they killed 70,000 Christians in a matter of 3 months. I'm telling you, beloved, the information that they keep hid from the history books is all right here. But anyway, page 234 in the chapter The French Reformation, and you can Google all of her books online if you want to just read it online, if you can't go to a bookstore to read it, because in the city I live in, I have to go to Nashville to read it. I can't buy them. I can't even purchase Ellen White books in the city I live in now. But anyway, it says, throughout Christendom, Protestantism was menaced by formidable foes. Now remember, the Jesuits were created to stamp out Protestantism because it was growing too strong and too popular. The first triumphs of the Reformation past, Rome summoned new forces, hoping to accomplish its destruction. Talking about the Protestant Reformation. And the word Protestant means to protest. Rome. To protest Rome. That's where you get the word Protestantism. Okay. Anyway, let me start back over. The first triumphs of the Reformation past, Rome summoned new forces, hoping to accomplish its destruction. At this time, the order of the Jesuits was created, the most cruel, unscrupulous, and powerful of all the champions of popery, cut off from earthly ties and human interests, dead to the claims of natural affection, reason, and conscience, their conscience wholly silenced. They have no conscience, basically. They knew no rule, no tie, but that of their order, and no duty but to extend its power. The gospel of Christ had enabled its adherents to meet danger and enduring suffering, undismayed by cold, hunger, toil, and poverty, to uphold the banner of truth in the face of the rack, the dungeon, and the stake. Now this is what she's saying, that this is what the gospel of Christ did to the Christians. You know, it made them be able to uphold the banner of truth in the face of the rack, the dungeon, and the stake. To combat these forces, Jesuitism inspired its followers with a fanaticism that enabled them to endure like dangers and to oppose to the power of truth all the weapons of deception. There was no crime too great for them to commit, no deception too base for them to practice, no disguise too difficult for them to assume. Vow to a perpetual poverty and humility. Now tell me this isn't Pope Francis, because people thought this was so awesome and cool. Oh, he lived in the little 1-bedroom apartment. He drove a VW Bug. Look, vowed to a perpetual poverty and humility. It was their studied aim to secure wealth and power, to be devoted to the overthrow of Protestantism and the re-establishment of the papal supremacy. When appearing, now here it is, tell me this isn't Pope Francis. When appearing as members of their order, they wore a garb of sanctity, visiting prisons. Didn't he visit prisons and kiss the little boys' feet and kiss people's feet as he washed their feet? Visiting prisons and hospitals, ministering to the sick and the poor, professing to have renounced the world and bearing the sacred name of Jesus, who went about doing good, but under this blameless exterior. Under this blameless exterior, the most criminal and deadly purposes were often concealed. It was a fundamental principle of the order that the end justifies the means. That means they have an aim and a goal. No matter what they have to do to get there, it's okay long as they reach their goal. Murder, steal, kill, hundreds, thousands, whatever. The end justifies the means. That's what they live by. By this code, lying, theft, perjury, assassination were not only pardonable but commendable. By this code, lying, theft, perjury, assassination were not only pardonable but commendable when they served the interests of the church. Under various disguises, the Jesuits worked their way into offices of state, climbing up to be the counselors of kings and shaping the policy of nations. Is that not what we see today? When you can just Google how many Jesuits are on in Obama's cabinet and in our government today. Even from the universities like Georgetown, which produces our nation's leaders, and Loyola, Marymount, all of these, especially Georgetown, produces our leaders, our lawyers, our judges, our politicians. Okay. Where was I? They became, under the various disguises, the Jesuits worked their way into offices of state, climbing up to be the counselors of kings and shaping the policy of nations. They became servants to act as spies upon their masters. They established colleges like Georgetown for the sons of princes and nobles, and schools for the common people. And the children of Protestant parents were drawn into an observance of popish rites, All the outward pomp and display of the Romish worship was brought to bear to confuse the mind and dazzle and captivate the imagination. And thus the liberty for which the fathers had toiled and bled was betrayed by the sons. The Jesuits rapidly spread themselves over Europe, and wherever they went, there followed a revival of popery. How many people have you seen say now, oh, Pope Francis is just the coolest? Like, they just forget about the rapes of all the children. They've been finding tombs and graves of thousands of little children's bones and bodies under certain cathedrals, like the one up in Canada, the one right here in the States, the one that was under Benjamin Franklin's house over in Europe. Now some people might say, she wrote this in the 1800s, y'all. In the 1800s. Tell me that isn't what we see today. But because of people's lack of knowledge of what a Jesuit is, we forget, and many people don't know and forget, that the Jesuits were banned in every country in the world. Before, in the 1700s, they were banned. The last lodge that was open was the Bavarian Lodge, ran by Adam Weishaupt, and he fled. Once Bavaria shut that down, he fled over here to America, a fresh young country, and he changed the name because the name Jesuit was so hideous. He changed it to Freemason. Yes, Freemason. Beloved, Google what Abraham Lincoln said about the Jesuits. Beloved, open your eyes. She wrote this warning in the 1800s. Tell me that is not what's going on today. Take heed, beloved. The truth loves investigation. Read for yourself.